Capitalized, where we unpack everything tech, investments, and people. I'm your host, Dorcas Kanini, and today we are talking about a very interesting topic, one that keeps most CEOs and founders up in the morning at 2 a.m. How do you actually raise money? Joining me is Nashon Garvey, the co-founder and the finance at siscom.africa. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Dorcas, for having me. It's an absolute pleasure being here today. Looking forward to unpacking this discussion.
Awesome. Now, Nashon, let's start from the top. Where are we right now in terms of fundraising in the Kenyan and African ecosystem?
Well, that's an interesting question. To be quite honest, I'd have to say the tech space is one sector that is greatly overlooked. And what do I mean by this? You'd find currently, specifically in Kenya, most investors are looking to invest in the traditional form of investment, something they're familiar to, it's something that they're more or less quite acquainted to. And what's that? We're talking about real estate, agriculture, and I don't blame them, but I can only imagine that the reason behind it is because there are pre-existing success stories to this. Everyone knows someone who got rich or got wealthy through real estate or through agriculture. But then one of the sectors that I see creating the next generation of millionaires or successful investors is absolutely going to be tech. And the earlier the people realize this, the better. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, talking about the whole aspect of the essential of investments, could you give us maybe a glimpse on what's it like fundraising, the picture of success?
Well, fundraising is what I describe to be similar as being in the front lines during the German war. It's not pretty as people make it seem, because it involves countless amounts of cold reach outs and countless hours of sleepless nights, and something that I believe every individual fundraising that have to get used to is hearing the word no. And the one thing about it is, once you understand that a rejection doesn't necessarily mean rejecting you or rejecting your idea, but rather an opportunity for you to redefine why did this particular investor pass out on a particular investment. Knowing the why is an opportunity for you to more or less redefine or sharpen your business. Now, what's it like, how would I describe it? What's it like fundraising currently in the Kenyan ecosystem? I'd say the three things that people really need to get right before going out there to fundraise. And one, I'd have to say the team. The team is a fundamental layer or the bedrock upon which any successful business is built upon. Having the right team members and having the right people with the necessary skills, technical know-how, and also the soft skills is quite essential. From there, I'd have to say the business model, and not just an idea. Yes, you may get your idea funded, but investors seem to gravitate towards something tangible, something executable, something that they can attach physical aspects to it. So having a validated business model is something that is quite essential to a certain degree. And finally, if I had to say one, it would have to be building relationships. I believe we're in an ecosystem whereby relationships ends up or enables you to open doors far much quicker as opposed to cold outreaches. So I'd say those are the three key essentials that are necessary before any individual goes out there to fundraise.
Thank you so much for that. Yes. Still on the same line, let's give us a picture as a co-founder of Siscom Africa. When it comes to investments, what are some of the investments challenges that you think people experience in this region, Kenya particularly, and also also as a co-founder, what advice would you give someone who is looking to expand their investment footprint?
Well, that's a good question, I'd have to say. Okay. I'd say one of the main challenges would be customer education. Now, just as how I started off, currently very few people understand the tech ecosystem. You'd find the average Kenya or most investors are lump sum everything tech or everything IT into one box. So I'd say the main challenge is enabling people to understand that tech, specifically the tech ecosystem, is just as important and it's just as valuable as other sectors are. Similarly, real estate and agriculture. So I'd have to say one of the main hurdles has been more or less customer education, being able to enable people to understand that there is more ways of investing your money that has, yes, subtle amount of risk, but also higher return as compared to other investment alternatives. Now, if I had to say in terms of the other question, what would be what's been the one amazing part, if I have to say an amazing part about fundraising, is the couple of investors who have actually, if I can say, been a good listening ear and also took the risk of also investing. And what do I mean by this? We've had interactions with various investors, some from the healthcare sector, some from agriculture, some from engineering, and despite them being elusive to the tech side, once they get an understanding, or once we have sit down with them and explain to them what we're building here at Siscom, we've really gotten a lot of positive comments and a lot of positive remarks. Not only just remarks, but people who have actually written down checks to invest. So yeah, I'd say those are the two flip sides of our investment specifically in Siscom.
Fantastic. So Garvey, tell us, what are some of the ways companies, startups particularly, can fundraise and still retain a very huge majority share of their company and still not feel like, get to a point where they feel like their idea is, being sold out there and losing the majority share value? What are those kind of ways?
Well, I'd have to say, if someone is starting, this is a solution, or this is something we as Kenyans are quite familiar with, and we've done this multiple or countless amounts of times. When it comes to taking care of a medical bill, when it comes to taking a child to school, we come together as a community, and one individual or various individuals from the community give up a small portion, and we call it chama, or more or less harambe. And this small amounts or small ticket size end up accumulating into this one large pool that enables a particular objective to be achieved. And that's what I'd have to base my response for. One way a company can start is specifically from the family and friends. And people usually have this notion whereby they need $1 million check to be able to turn the idea from 0 to 1. But really, whenever you're in the starting stage or from level 0, the whole objective is to validate your idea. Is this an actual problem, and is the solution I'm providing actually solving the problem that's out there in the market? And to do that, you could start from your very close individuals, your family and friends, the various relationships you build. You could get small ticket size of 10,000 here, 15,000 here, 20, 5, 6, and cumulatively you could find, when you can raise a few thousands from 10, 20 people, that ends up generating a sufficient amount of pool for you to validate your idea. So the first one I'd always have to say is from family and friends. Second, you could go to angel investors, the few individuals who are described as people within the working class, some of your colleagues, people who you've interacted with at various networking events or business meetings, people who are looking to invest. That's also a particular point where people can reach out, or more or less reach out to be able to raise funds. So I'd say those two are more or less the fundamental layers that companies can use whenever they're starting to raise funds.
Very good. And I like the fact that you've talked about two being people who are looking to invest. So what I'm hearing from you is you need to build a very wide scope of network, from family to friends and also individuals who are looking to invest. Now, on to individuals who are looking to invest. As a co-founder, I'd like you to just give us a quick 5 minutes of the individuals who are in Kenya and even outside of Kenya, and maybe they're in their mid-30s, they've got some bit of savings here and there, and they're just thinking about where do I start. They really want to invest. It might be in tech, not in tech, but as a co-founder, what advice would you give that kind of a person?
Well, I'd have to say, one, carrying out your own personal research on the particular venture you're looking to invest. And one, before investing into a particular organization, it's, I'd say, critical for you to have an overview understanding of what they're doing, how they're solving the problem, and how the market responds to the problem they're solving. So that's one of the things that have to do. A research, just an overview research to get an understanding or an aerial view of the sector they're in. That's one. Two, I'd say having a sit down and if possible, a one-on-one sit down with the founders. Because whenever you're investing in the startup, I understand the risk that goes into it, and that's where you find very few people tend to invest in startups because they dub it as a risky venture. And one way that I find, one way I believe that investors could overcome that hurdle or that barrier would be being able to understand who they're investing in. Because whenever you're investing in a startup, you really aren't investing in the idea, but rather you're investing in the founders themselves. You're quote unquote betting on the founders' potential. And that's why it's really crucial if you're able to have a one-on-one sit down with a team they're actually investing in, so that you can be able to see, are these people who I can trust with my hard-earned capital to be able to build a $1 million, $1 billion business within the Kenyan ecosystem. And then now to the next question. What are the various ways you can invest in? Now, most people usually think that the only way you can invest in tech is in the millions of dollars, but really, it doesn't have to be that way. There are few instruments that people can use, specifically investors who are looking to invest in tech. And the ones that I'd call, or the ones that classify as less risky, are safe notes. So what's a safe note? A safe note is a simple agreement for future equity, whereby you as an investor invests in an organization or in a startup with the agreement that on a particular event, triggering event, the amount of capital you've invested in turns into an equity amount of the business, or equity shares, upon a trigger event. And most of the times you'd find the event that leads to the conversion of your capital into equity is either when the company IPOs, or when the company goes on a fundraising, or Series A, Series B, Series C. And now the perks with this is that given that you actually invested during an earlier period, your shares convert, or your capital converts into a high amount of shares. You see, now that way you're not, the beauty about it is, one, it's not as capital intensive as it is. You don't need the millions of dollars. You could invest from the few thousands, if possible even hundreds of dollars. And then now the beauty about it is you're not only investing into the business, but you're also getting to own a portion or a stake on the business. And I find that to be one of the less risky instruments investors can use if they're looking to start investing into tech. Safe notes. Absolutely,
absolutely. Thank you. And even as we are about to wind up, maybe founder to founder, you know, we started with talking about this. This is a real thing. Founders do stay up at 2 a.m. You know, just thinking about their ideas, how to fine tune it, how to polish it, and just package it to the market. So maybe give us a punchline.
If I had to put it down into a punchline, I'd say fail forward. Yeah, fail forward. And what does that mean? Regardless of the situation, regardless of the challenges, regardless of the endless amounts of roadblocks that you'll be facing, ensure that even if you're falling, fall forward and pick yourself up. Because I'll be honest, it's not as pretty as people make it seem, you know. But one thing that I've seen, personally speaking, that I've seen work, even regardless of the amounts of barriers or hurdles or face, or the failures I've made throughout the journey, being able to fail forward, picking yourself up and moving ahead regardless of the situation, is something that I've seen work and I've seen do wonders, specifically for me and other founders I've interacted in the tech system.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There you have it from Garvey. Fail forward, pick yourself up and keep going. And even to each and everyone who's listening and is not even a founder, there you have it from him. In this region, it's about time we build the Africa that we are looking forward to. So stay tuned to Capitalized, and we'll be sure to catch you next week on Tuesday for more tech, investments, and people. Cheers.